Hello and welcome, friends, to We Heal with healers Eliana Miranda and Holly Wheeler. We have expansive conversations about healing our hearts, bodies, lineages, communities, and our beloved home planet. We are so happy to invite you into this space. Thanks for joining us. Let's get started.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to We Heal with Eliana Miranda and Holly Wheeler. We're so happy to have you joining us here today. We are going to talk about a ancient Indian medical system called Ayurveda. But before we get into the juicy topic that we're here to share, we did want to just start out by thanking all of the amazing listeners that tuned into our human design episode. We've been getting such amazing feedback and people sending us their charts, sharing a little bit more about what they've learned just through sitting in this conversation and hearing our interpretations of that system. So yeah, we're so grateful just to be receiving some feedback as well as sharing and kind of putting out information into the world. We're really here for the connection and the conversation. And as we've said before, we love talking about human design. So we're just extremely enthused about the response we've been getting from everyone. So we're going to get started. Holly, would you like to kind of enter us into this beautiful topic of Ayurveda?
Yes, I would love to. Thank you, Eliana. So Ayurveda is a beautiful ancient practice, healing art, wisdom code channel that came into the world over 3,000 years ago and has been practiced ever since. It's from India. And it means Ayurveda, the word of it means it's a Sanskrit word. And it means life science or life wisdom. And it really is like a spiritual lifestyle wisdom practice. And it's like lifestyle medicine, like very preventative, holistic healthcare healing system. And it's huge. It's so broad. Like one person could study this system their whole life and still be studying and still be learning. So we're just going to kind of dip our toes into that today and talk about some of the highlights that we have mostly been impacted by and that we're really excited to share with you. So first, we really wanted to just give thanks and give props to all the yogis and all the Ayurvedic coaches and teachers who have shared this wisdom with people in America, people in the West. I want to specifically shout out a teacher that I have learned from and who has shared some extremely like deep and resonant and beautiful wisdom through her books and through her message and her stories, and that is from Acharya Shunya. She is an incredible author. She is a lineage holder. She comes from a family, a long line of Ayurvedic healers. And she brought Ayurveda and she brought her wisdom with her to the West and has shared her story and her healing and this healing art with America and with the United States, specifically in the West, where we really need it. And I also want to shout out, of course, Deepak Chopra. He's also somebody who has spent a lot of time and energy bringing Ayurveda and his yoga practice wisdom to the West. And we just really want to acknowledge and give thanks to all the yogis, all the Ayurvedic teachers who have done this work and brought it over here and shared this and gifted this wisdom to us here in the US. We don't really have a lot of sacred sacredness or sacred practices or anything that is sacred and that is from the US. So we really appreciate that this was gifted to us, and we want to acknowledge that and really honor that. Yeah, we're living on stolen land, so there's a lot of healing that we need to do, and thank you for offering this healing wisdom to us. Yeah, so do you want to say anything about that?
Yeah, I'll kind of just speak to kind of what you're speaking to, in that Ayurveda, I think for me at least, was so inspiring and interesting to learn about, because after going to school for health and all the stuff in the Western systems, Ayurveda showed up in my life as this medical practice that really combines like mind, body, and soul. Like it looks at all aspects of the human. It really honors the multidimensionality of the human experience. And instead of just trying to put a Band-Aid on something or trying to prescribe a medication for something, Ayurveda really encourages you to get to the root of why you have an illness or why there's disease in not even just the body, but also in the mind or in the spirit or in the lifestyle or in the energy field. And though it's not, an energetic practice per se, it really kind of does tune us into the energies of both the body and the earth, and how the body can be in more resonance with the earth frequencies and with the cycles of this planet that we're on, and how we can get into better attunement with kind of the cyclical nature, I guess, of being a human and being in this resonatory, exchange with the earth field. So yeah, I'm excited that we're talking about Ayurveda today. I think both of us have had our own individual journeys with it, and maybe, gotten really deep in some areas. And I know for me, I've taken kind of a couple things from it and integrated them into my day, and then haven't necessarily like gone back into any more, because I got what I needed out of it for this time. And it's been really shape-shifting my life into this kind of holistic wellness experience. And, being a person that was always kind of a patient in the medical system, and getting to be a patient for this system that really kind of looks at the whole being, was a very different experience for me, at least, because it allowed me to look at all aspects of myself instead of just trying to put pieces of my disease or my autoimmunity into a box, and instead recognized and encouraged me to look at myself as a holistic being, as a whole body being that is in resonation with the mind, the body, and the spirit, and the earth, and the cycles and the changes of all that around us. So yeah, I'm excited to, we're just, I think, brushing the surface here today, because as Holly said, it's just so deep. We could go in so many different directions, but it does feel important to kind of bring this kind of grounding foundational medicine into these conversations about healing.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that you're saying that, because I was just thinking, like, I feel that Ayurveda is really coming through right now and is gaining popularity so much because we are really, like, as a culture, money runs the world right now. And as a culture, our lifestyle is the sickness. Like, our lifestyle is what's causing our disease. It's not enough sleep. It's pushing ourselves too hard. It's working in a place that doesn't align with us. It's the people around us that are mean or like authoritarian or whatever. And it's like the things that we're exposing ourselves to, even, like the shows that we watch or whatever, stuff that we're just kind of is in our field that we're not like, or the food that we're eating or the people who cooked our food. And it's just like all of these things, like they pile up to really kind of like just cause an out of balance lifestyle that really isn't in alignment with like the natural, like, human needs and human, like, health. So I think it's really important that just these awarenesses are really important, I feel, for healing. Anybody on the healing journey. This is such beautiful, beautiful wisdom. And it really does connect us back with the magic of the earth and back with just kind of living close to nature. You know, we all live so separated from nature, maybe not all of us, but many of us in this culture, in this kind of dominant culture, live farther from the land than we ever have. And so this wisdom can kind of help us reattune to that, even if we do live in cities and we can't change like our living circumstance right now. We can't all just like move away from the city and live in the woods or whatever, like we'd probably all love to. But you know, these practices I feel like really just help us to become aware of our environments and the earth and the impact that these certain elements or environments have on our being.
Yeah, it's like really tuning us into the ancient ways, you know, like the people before the patriarchy. Of course, you know, the patriarchy also lives in India, but kind of how people would heal themselves and offer medicine to their bodies and to their experiences before kind of medical systems came in and took charge. Western medical systems came in and took charge.
Right. Yeah, exactly. And a lot of this wisdom is feminine wisdom. Like it's, you know, it might have come through a more masculine channel, you know, assuming that most of the yogis who, or the people who brought this energy or this wisdom, you know, forward might have been masculine, but this is feminine codes, you know, and I think that the Western medical system is very like masculine, and like, so uniting like the East and the West, that's where it's at.
Yeah.
So let's get into it, huh?
You just give us like an overview and a background of the philosophy maybe of Ayurveda, so we can give a little bit more context to this this beautiful system that we're talking about?
Yes, absolutely. So Ayurveda philosophy kind of, it really touches in a lot on the elements, the five elements. Air, fire, water, earth, and ether are the elements that are all contained in Ayurveda, and they are paired in Ayurveda. They're paired together, the five elements, into three different elemental kind of frequencies, and that's Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And without getting like too much into that, I'll just say Vata is air and ether, Pitta is fire and water, and Kapha is earth and water. So these contain very different energies. You know, the air and ether is super like airy, super light, very what's the word? It's kind of dry. It's kind of very the energy of like early fall, very windy and dry and kind of cold. And then Pitta is the fire. Pitta is very summertime energy. Pitta is it's moist, it's hot, it is bright, it's sharp. And then Kapha is kind of dull, slow. It's more like earthy, so more heavy, maybe very winter. Yeah, so that's kind of just like a synopsis. You know, if you hear Ayurveda, you'll probably hear Vata, Pitta, and Kapha. And so basically what this is, you know, what Ayurveda looks at is like the philosophy behind it is really that each person's body, you know, we are made of star stuff, right? So each person's body is a microcosm of the macrocosm, of the greater macrocosm, of the stars, of the universe, of the seasons, of our outer environment. So whatever is going on in our outer environment is reflected on our inner environment. And you could say the same, I mean, it kind of goes the same way out. It's definitely, obviously, the universe is a lot bigger than our bodies are. So maybe in your home, your inner environment becomes your outer environment. But it, you know, the outer environment does have that stronger influence. Yeah, so just kind of knowing that unification between the microcosm and the macrocosm is really the basis for the Ayurvedic wisdom, which says a few different things. So the idea behind Ayurveda, and some of the major practices and things that I would like to speak on today, is living with living with the natural cycles of the day, like knowing the influence of your daily cycles and literally like the earth's rotation. So like day to night, like the day and night cycles, and then living in harmony with the seasonal cycles and living in harmony with your own internal cycles and your own internal like mental state. And knowing that everything cycles and everything shifts, and kind of learning how to ride those shifts and how to offer your body foods, practices, medicines, and just different things to be able to bring you back into balance. For example, if it's a cold, dry, chilly fall day, one thing, like one way to practice like Ayurveda would be to like dress warmly, like wear a scarf, sip hot warming herbs, and massage your skin in the morning, and then boom, you're kind of like prepped to like balance the dry, cold energies of fall in that way. So it can be pretty intuitive, but a lot of the times as we're going through life, we get so far away from it, you know? So these are kind of some of the things that I would like to expand upon in a bit. But first, I would really like to talk about like why we're so excited about Ayurveda and what kind of effects it's had on our lives. So Eliana, would you mind sharing with us some of the ways Ayurveda has helped you in your life and some of the benefits that you've noticed from practicing it?
Yeah, I would love to. Like you said, when I first learned about Ayurveda, it was like learning about the doshas and going online to take a dosha quiz. And so the doshas are what Holly was referring to, of kapha, pitta, and vata. And there are these kinds of energetic archetypes that when most people learn about Ayurveda, it's like, yeah, go and find your one. And then you're that one for your whole life, supposedly. I actually heard a Ayurvedic practitioner get asked this on a podcast once, if people can change their dosha as they kind of change forms in their life. And so of course, like you go through different cycles, right? Like the doshas hold a place in your early cycles of life, in your adult life, and in your elderly years. You know, the elderly years are very vata. So we all hold all of these cycles in our lives in the age points that we are. And then we also kind of go through them in the seasons as the earth kind of turns into her seasons. And then we also can be kind of influenced by these other doshas when we're out of balance. So you might go online and take a quiz and find out your dosha and get this one thing, and then actually go to an Ayurvedic practitioner and find out that you're not that thing. You were just very imbalanced in this one dosha, and it was over kind of pervading your life. And so that was my experience. Actually, I went and did the quiz. I think I really kind of tuned into Ayurveda in my first yoga teacher training. I think that was probably the first time that it was brought into my awareness. And we were very specific about learning our doshas and knowing who we were and kind of putting those labels on ourselves. And so I had this label of kapha. And, you know, even though I had like found myself to be very kapha dominant and have all these kinds of connections to the kapha, it felt very out of tune for me. It felt like, oh, this is kind of my mother line, right? I'm just embodying my mother line, and my mother line is very kaphic. And then I went to an actual practitioner, and she kind of tuned me into the fact that it was actually so much of the imbalance and disease in my body that was leaning me towards this kapha lifestyle, which wasn't actually attuned to my natural organic being. So it's kind of been in like the deconditioning. You know, we talk about deconditioning in the Human Design podcast, but we can talk about deconditioning also in the way we've healed and medicated and tended to our bodies. And so I had to do a bunch of deconditioning of just how I was treating my disease, my health, my wellness, like these different layers and aspects of what my body had been going through at the time. And so with Ayurveda, like I was teaching yoga, and then I learned this, like I would call it the medical system of yoga when I was explaining it to my students in classes or talking about it in that way. And it felt really good to me that like yoga didn't just have to be this physical asana, that it could have this whole other lifestyle aspect to it. And of course, like in yoga, like the yamas and niyamas, like you learn that yoga is not just the asana. It's not just the physical movement, that there is so much more. but being somebody that had grown up, as a patient and being ill, and then taking my education towards like trying to be a practitioner and a healer of others, it was so nice to realize that yoga, which I had always just been naturally drawn to as a very like easy, gentle medicine for my autoimmune disease, also had this whole medical history behind it, this whole medical system that I could use and I could tap into, and I could allow it to inform how my body was healing, which, was like, it was informing healing. It wasn't informing more disease. As I tuned more into Ayurveda, it was telling my body how to put itself back into balance, how to find more flow with the seasons. And, I'm not sure if I even said this out loud on the recording before, if this is just in me and Holly kind of talking to each other behind the scenes, but we're both having like a big throat chakra clearing right now as we're talking about this, because we haven't necessarily been huge teachers on this topic or coaches. Like I did an Ayurvedic lifestyle consulting program like 7 or 8 years ago, maybe even a decade ago. And so it's been something that I kind of put in my aura, like I put in my projector, living library, bookshelf, and stored there. And I've just been kind of taking pages out of it whenever I need to. And it's so ingrained, the things I've learned from Ayurveda, into my daily rituals now. It's really kind of informed rituals that are not just spiritual rituals, but are also kind of body work rituals, things I can do for my body's health every day, that I almost forgot that they were, Ayurvedic related. And so we'll get into some of these things in a little bit here, but I definitely do use Ayurvedic tools every single day to tap me into the energies of that day, as Holly was saying, to get me into the flow of the natural cycles. But also throughout the year, like I do an Ayurvedic cleanse, or at least I try to, in the fall and the spring, which is recommended by the author Holly was talking about before. I actually use her book solely now for her recipes and for her way of inviting people in. And we'll put that book in the show notes, but inviting people in to do these cleanses. And the thing that was really influential for me, and so for anyone that's had an autoimmune disease or stomach conditions or been ill for chronic periods of times in their lives, and especially in relationship to the digestive system, which mine was, things like cleansing and fasting and making restrictions on my diet held a lot of trauma. Like we did a cleanse in my first yoga teacher training, and it was like my trauma response shut my nervous system down, and there was no coming back from it. There was just a hard no on my body because it was attached to something that never was good, that never was positive, that never was medicinal. It was always like I had to not eat for 10 days because I had to rest my digestive system, and it was medically ordered. So coming back into Ayurveda and starting to learn about the way that they encourage cleansing and doing different types of fasts, it's so gentle and it's so nourishing and it's so supportive of the nervous system, which was like this angel noise, like, moment when I realized like I could do a cleanse and I could really like internally cleanse and purify the inside of my body without starving myself, right? They encourage you to eat food, which was like, beautiful. I can eat. You're telling me that I should be eating, that it's actually supportive for my system to be eating on this cleanse, that I'm not supposed to deprive myself, that I'm supposed to fill myself back up with this particular Kitchari, which is this very nutrient dense, like rice bean kind of porridge mixture that it's not nutrient dense, but it has a density to it that allows for the body to feel full, but it actually is like a very neutralizing force. So the body has time to relax its digestive system. So yeah, I try to hit it at least twice a year to tune into that frequency of like, can I purify and cleanse my body? And it's been in these cleanses that I really do believe that I've been able to stay off of like Western medicine, get off of Western medicine to begin with, and stay off of Western medicine because I'm regularly cleansing at these pivotal points, the fall equinox and the spring equinox, when the earth is making these big shifts, and release and get rid of and purify the body from the inside out in a way that doesn't blow my nervous system out or cause a trauma response, but instead invites in deep, nourishing, internal care of the body. So that was my experience with Ayurveda. That's kind of been where it's landed for me. Holly, do you want to give a background on your journey with it?
Yeah, absolutely. I would love to. And I mean, I do, of course, like, I love that you're saying like just how nourishing it is and how like supportive it is of the digestive system. I think that is so like, it just feels so resonant, because of course, like the way we want to eat is a way that's in alignment with our digestive system so that we can actually like be nourished by what we're eating. And, you know, even like the herbs that they recommend cooking with, even the cumin and coriander and turmeric, they're all like digestive supporting herbs. And so that's like part of the medicine is like, oh, maybe your stomach isn't digesting your nutrients well enough. Like, let's see what happens when you are. And like when the fire within your belly is stoked and you're actually like really properly digesting. And there's all these different practices to really support the digestive process that just a lot of us aren't, you know, practicing, you know, like eating on the go, eating in your car, you're not super conscious of your digestion. And I just think that, and even like the temperature of the foods and a lot of the guidelines they give you is just like so beautiful and gentle, and you don't have to starve yourself or take this weird stuff, you know, it's like it tastes good, you know. It's magic. So I think that, yeah, some of the practices and like what I get really excited about Ayurveda and my what I've gained from it and what I've benefited from the most, I think, in Ayurveda has really been the the morning rituals. I think has been like my favorite, like most impactful practice that I've gleaned from Ayurveda. And I think that Acharya Shunya's book, like I think that like half of the book is dedicated to those like morning practices. Like she has her whole first chapter is about the magic of waking up at sunrise or before, like a whole like 50 pages about it, like about the magic of it. And it really is so beautiful and so incredible. And I had a lot of resistance to it at first, especially like I used to sleep in a lot, but I really feel and feel that when I do catch the sunrise, which is way easier to do in the winter. So if you want to start practicing and it's winter where you live, that's a good time. But just being able to see the earth come alive, and you know, they say that it does something in your being when you can witness the sunrise and you can witness like the new day and the hope and the beauty and the magic that that brings when the light kind of overcomes the darkness, and how that is like just deep, deep soul medicine to witness that in the morning time. And so I definitely don't do that every morning. I love to. Sometimes I get on these awesome stretches where I am just waking up early, like bam, 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 bam. And I swear I feel the best when I when I'm like on that flow. I feel so good. And I just came off of a flow of not doing that and not really doing my morning rituals either, because you know, if something happens, you stay out late, you get off your schedule. You know, I have my daughter now and she wakes up at a certain time. And when she's up, like I am on. And so if she's up before I get up or as I'm waking up, she's waking up, it's just like I just gotta go into my day without getting a chance to feel myself or feel where my energy is. And that gets crazy and I get really frustrated, and I'm like, I get into this phase where I'm like, why am I so frustrated all the time? Why am I not happy? And it's like, oh, because I'm not doing my morning practices, because I'm being like immediately engaged with whatever it is I'm doing, and I have no time to sit with myself, to breathe, to feel where I'm at, to honor myself, to honor what I need. And when I do this, when I do these practices, whew, I mean, like I feel so much more grounded. I can tell where I'm at. I can tell what's my energy and what's somebody else's energy. I can, you know, have a moment to like gauge what I'm going to do that day and just have a moment to check in. You know, it's so nice and so beautiful. And so there's kind of this morning ritual that Ayurveda offers, and different practitioners kind of offer it in different ways, but many practitioners offer like you know, morning wake up time. You know, like Acharya Shunya is like 6 a.m. every day of your life. Wake up at 6 a.m. and all of these issues that you're like, that's the first thing she says that she recommends to people who are suffering from illness is start waking up early. And it just like blows my mind. Like I was reading that chapter and I was just like, oh my God, this is the answer to all of my problems. And I really do. I feel so much better. I have energy. And the thing she talks about is that this is like the energy of the world, the energy in the cosmos, and where you are in the planet is one of waking up, of rising, of it's upward moving, so if you catch that sunrise, your energy will naturally start to raise, and you don't have to work as hard. Like if you sleep in, you miss the energy. And if you sleep in too late, you get into that kapha realm. So the 6 a.m. time is the vata, the light, airy energy, where it's really easy to get up. It's really easy to meditate, have deep spiritual experiences. And then I think it shifts to pitta, and then it shifts to kapha around like 11. And that's the time I used to get up. And when I get up at 11, I feel so bad for the rest of the day, or I feel not bad, but I feel it, And so it's really interesting to just kind of play with that too. But also, just those morning practices. And then she has another practice also. So her whole like morning routine that she recommends, and I think Deepak talks about this morning routine too, that's really big in Ayurveda. Waking up early to greet the sun, give thanks, give gratitude, and then eliminate like right away. There's also a whole like 50-page chapter about the importance of elimination on rising. And it is important. We have to like clear out before we put new things in. Like that's so beautiful what you're talking about, Eliana, about just that. It really it calls attention to your body's like purging, and that in that cycle of like eating, but then also purging and eliminating and clearing. And I think that's really key, and that's really cool, because we don't usually talk about that in Western medicine. I mean, none of this stuff is really talked about in Western medicine. But yeah, especially this. And then, yeah, so we could go on with the ritual. Should I just lay out the morning ritual, and then we'll maybe kind of talk about, we'll move on to the next thing.
Yeah, because I feel like what we're going to talk about even here is just like, these are tools for cleansing and then for rebuilding. Right. And that's kind of all of this aspect, is like all of these are really like embodied ways to cleanse, and then embodied ways to like rebuild more resilience and balance in the field, in the body field, but also in the spiritual and mental fields as well. So yeah, as Holly's kind of breaking this down, like there's purpose, like there's medical purpose behind all of these things. And they really do kind of come back to cleansing, clearing, and then rebuilding in a way that is in more harmony to the centeredness of the body.
Yeah, absolutely. Ooh, and to segue even into this next piece. So wake up early, eliminate. And then they talk about drinking warm water, like at room temp or warm, and never drinking cold water unless it's like 110 degrees or something, unless it's really hot outside. Like our digestive system, it taxes the digestive system to digest something cold, because you have to warm it before, and they talk about your digestive system being like a flame, like fire. And if you put cold water on a fire, it puts it out. And so then your digestive system really suffers. And it's so funny, because I have this friend who used to carry this ice cold bottle of water with her everywhere she went. She was like, I'm having the worst digestive problems and like pain in my stomach, and I don't know what it is. And I was like, girl, you're drinking this huge like ice water thing every single day. And in Ayurveda, they say that it's better to drink warm water. And she switched, and just her stomach problems were eliminated. And I think that's so cool. Like, why, it's just so cool to have that as a tool. Like if you're suffering from stomach problems, to be able to try that instead of getting on medication, which could have all these other different side effects. It's like, oh, I just drink room temp water. I just don't put ice in my water. Great, cool. I mean, I know it's easy. It's like this stuff is easier, oftentimes easier than and cheaper than having to pay for a doctor visit and a prescription and all that. And it's also honoring that nothing is wrong with your body. It's just that what you're putting into it isn't aligned, or there's something better you could put into it or something. So it's like, it's really empowering, I think, to have these practices, to be able to utilize. Okay, so the next thing after we drink a glass of warm water in the morning is this time for ritual. And I think that, I mean, they recommend pranayama, yoga, meditation, prayer. Boom, that's like the recipe. But this is a really great time to do any kind of like ritual practice that you like. I mean, what do you do for your ritual practice in the morning, Eliana? I know you speak about having like a really potent and beautiful morning ritual practice. And I know that we like to, I mean, yeah, everybody, after I feel like you've done this for a while, you kind of start to feel into what you really need. Some people do affirmations, some people journal, you know, you can kind of just like kind of taking this time to like drop in with self, I feel like is the major key. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, so I will be the first to admit that I am not a morning person, especially these days. My husband's a manifesting generator. He's got a buzzing sacral. I usually need to sleep in after he wakes up and get my own personal time. But I did have a very large chunk of my life where I was waking up at 4, 5, 6 in the morning, depending upon when I had to work that day. And before a 12-hour work day, I would wake up and do these rituals. And there's one, you know, Yogi Bhajan, who brought Kundalini yoga to America. He has this term of brainwashing, and like how this ritual, this morning time when you're getting in tune with yourself is like a way of, you know, he's like, you wash your body every day, you brush your teeth every day. So why not wash out the brain? And so as Holly's saying, like this ritual time is an opportunity to kind of wash out any energies that you may have picked up in, you know, during the lunar hours while you were astral traveling or doing whatever you do while you sleep. It's also, you know, an opportunity to just wash off like any part of like excess energy that doesn't need to come with you through that day. So I feel like waking up with the sun, as Holly was saying, like, is that right? Because it's like these solar codes kind of wash anything that is like lingering from the sleep, lingering from the darkness, you know, it kind of like wakes up the light codes in the body. And then, yeah, breath work, you know, that's like, it's cardiovascular a purifying mechanism that you can use with your own breath. Yoga, movement, that actual moving practice is cleansing and purifying for the bodies to start moving the joints and moving the cartilage and just creating some friction and some, you know, maneuvering that like actually expunges things and rids the body of things. So yeah, it's interesting. My morning practice has definitely changed. Now I'm kind of usually just running out the door because I take my dog on a walk and I want to get fresh air first thing, but I do have every single day I actually drink warm lemon water, which was how it was taught to me, is to put lemon in the water, in the warm water in the morning as a way to help balance the pH and the acidity of the body. And it was funny, today I decided to wake up and go on a walk and then to the sauna before I did anything. And by the time I came home, I didn't want warm water. I just wanted food. So I ate a bunch of food and I felt immediately horrible afterwards. And I know if I had just taken a little time to have warm water, it usually fills me up. I'm not like super hungry when I drink the warm lemon water. It like helps to kind of get my body prepared to take in the food and avoid that whole problem, you know, in itself. But I also dry brush every single day, which we haven't specifically spoken about that yet, but dry brushing is a purifying mechanism to release the dried skin off of your body. And then I cold shower every single time I take a shower. I turn it on for 108 seconds, which 108 is also a yogic. I mean, it's actually from a lot of different cultures, but the yogis really have kind of held down those codes in America. And then, yeah, so that's where I've kind of been with that. I definitely do the Abhyanga oil, like the warming oil massages as a part of the morning ritual, which that's heating up oil and lovingly giving yourself a massage with oil before you go into the showers. I'll do that when I'm cleansing, just to support my nervous system, to keep the body in like this nice, like gentle, calming aura while I'm doing some deep inner work. There was something else too that, you know, you talked about earlier, but I just wanted to tap into really quick, is the digestive fire piece was such an influential part of learning about Ayurveda. So they call it Agni. I'm hopefully I'm not butchering that. It's a Sanskrit word.
I think it's Agni.
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 I've never called it that before in my life. So thank you, Holly. And just a little American girl over here trying to Sanskrit. And but in like even some of the spiritual context with this digestive fire imprint, it's connected to the solar plexus chakra. And they really say that like when you're not seeing beauty in the world, it means that your digestive fire is dim. So it's this, as you were kind of pointing to, this macrocosmic to the microcosmic. It's like if you're seeing the world and having the world interpret back to you that like things are not full of life, that things are not full of light, that things are not, purifying and if you're not able to kind of digest what you're taking in visually or through your ears or through this kind of like exchange we have with the outside world, that it's not because something's wrong out there, and it's not that something's wrong in your head. It's like it all comes back to the belly. It comes back to the way that we digest and take in and process life. And do we have that fire inside of us to continue to keep the passion and to transmute the energies that flow in and then also flow out, so that we can stay in this balance and in this harmony and have the zest and the lifeline, the life capacity that we need to like finish our earthly mission here and to do the work that we came to do. So that was something else that kind of came through too, was just like the focus on the Agni, like, and that can be like by meditating, by looking at a fire. Like that used to be a beautiful practice that I would incorporate right in the morning there. It's just like lighting a fire and inspiring it and inviting it to light up the Agni inside of your body to like do its digestive work throughout the day. And it's not just food we're digesting so much. And especially now after 2020, everything that's coming at us, the high intensity energetics that are coming in from the cosmos, as well as what's coming in from the matrix, like we are digesting a lot. And I've heard from so many people, like all over, all spectrums of people, that they're all of a sudden just having new digestive problems or food sensitivities or things that are like very much related to the Agni and Agni.
Yeah.
And I find that interesting, because to me, it's like, well, if there's a food sensitivity, right, it's like the body is having a hard time digesting and processing what it once did. And from, another lens, it's like, if we're having a hard time digesting and processing food, we're probably having a hard time digesting and processing something else that maybe is connected to that food, either where we're eating it, how we're eating it, when we're eating it, why we eat that certain type of food. And so it's just important to kind of look at that and look at like the collective experience with this also, because we're going to need that reinvigoration, right? And sitting at home kind of all the time and not having a lot of like invitations to go out into the world and to do a lot of things, but really kind of a call to be inward and to keep your own space and to not do things, to not go to as many public events, that it's this ask of us to individually start tending to this fire, to this digestive spirit that lives inside of us, this solar frequency that kind of informs and supports us in all levels of our exchange with the internal and the outternal world. So I know I got us a little off topic, but I'm going to send it back over to you.
Yeah, thank you. It's so beautiful, everything that you were saying. I just love it. Like, of course, like the body, it's so holistic. Like Ayurveda is so holistic, so deeply, deeply holistic. And, it's not just, I love that you were bringing up that, if you're having trouble digesting, food, what else are we having trouble digesting? It's not like our minds and our bodies and we're all one being, so it's all the macro, the micro, it's all connected. And Ayurveda really teaches us that and really honors that, and really kind of like helps us adapt to that, and helps us adapt and come up with strategies to really like nurture that. And I love what you were saying too, just about like your different practices, and how I really feel like with each different practice that we were talking about in the morning routine, right? So waking up early, and how you were saying like that seeing the sunrise is kind of clearing away like the darker energies in your life. And then comes the nourishment, and then comes the prayer, the giving thanks. It's like each different part of like the morning routine and Ayurveda and life and everything is like clearing out and then nourishing, putting in nourishing things, and then clearing out the old and putting in new nourishment things. And, it's like clearing and nourishing, clearing and nourishing, clearing and nourishing, it's like that, it's the duality. It's the yin and the yang, even, I feel like in traditional Chinese medicine, they also have a lot of this kind of dualistic like energy. There's a lot of similarities with traditional Chinese medicine and Ayurveda, and some really beautiful differences also. But yeah, I love this. Like, and with with your skincare, the dry brushing, like clearing away the old and kind of like stimulating your lymphatic system, and then nourishing it with the oil and really feeding your skin with the oil, and like, drinking a glass of warm water, which both nourishes you with the lemon also, and then also helps you to eliminate, and also helps you to clear things out before you put new things in. Oh, and tongue scraping too is a part of elimination. That's a part of elimination too, is to actually clean your mouth, brush your teeth, brush your tongue before you drink this medicinal warm water, and get out all of the guck, all of the waste that your body has kind of, your esophagus is kind of like gathered at your tongue, in your tongue. And it really actually makes a difference. And a lot of excuse me, a lot of the medicine in Ayurveda and in the things that you're eating is the taste, because the taste offers us the what do you call it, like the quality of the food. So a sour taste has a certain quality to it and can treat certain imbalances of the elements within your body, and also seasonally. So the sour taste, you want to be able to actually taste it and experience it to receive the medicine from it. And so you have to clean out your mouth before you do that, and brush your tongue to really be able to fully receive. So it's just like, this is so beautiful, the seasonal cleanses, like clearing everything out so that you can fully and deeply receive the nourishment and receive the medicine that is coming in. And it's so beautiful. I mean, it's just like all so cyclical and so harmonious with the duality that is life on planet Earth, that is this human experience, It's really, really deep and beautiful wisdom. So yeah, I think that kind of like caps the morning routine talk. We went off the deep end on that, I feel like. But I love this topic though, because really the morning routine is what keeps me from becoming a monster. Oh, and one more thing I was going to touch on too, like during this, so it's like during this pranayama, this yoga meditation, this kind of morning ritual time, this is our time to program ourselves to both clear out, like the clearing out. So like exercising, getting your heart rate up, sweating a little bit, moving your joints, that clears the stuff out, which is why you want to move before you meditate and pray. So you can clear all of the stuff physically from your body, and then be lighter, and then be able to sit and to meditate and to receive nourishment, and then to pray and to offer your prayers, offer your intentions. You could journal or whatever. But it's just like another element of cleansing and nourishing. And it's so beautiful. And it's also this ritual time is also a really great time to program yourself, like program your field, like you are in charge, you're taking charge of your own programming, because for the rest of the day, everybody else is going to be telling you all of their stuff. And so if you can take a moment and even like do like affirmations or whatever, or feel into your field and your vibration, and put good things in, and put things of your choosing into your field. Like, I love that. When I do that, I can really separate myself from other people and from the other influences that people would have over me had I not done that self-programming in the morning before. So just wanted to say that too, that like that self-programming piece is huge. So just a little synopsis there on the routine, because I know it can get a little wonky as we keep going and go down all these beautiful rabbit holes. Wake up early. Maybe not always.
Thank you.
And that's the thing too, like we're cyclical beings, and this doesn't always happen. There's going to be times where we can't do these things, and that's okay. And how can we keep going? How can we take the moments that we can take to drop in, to do the self-programming, to make priorities for the things that we feel we really need to do to benefit us? How can we fit this? We might not have time to fit it in our schedule, but maybe we can fit a couple of these things into our schedule, So just having so much compassion for people that are living like lifestyles where we just can't fit this kind of stuff in. And just like kind of knowing that these practices are for everyone and can be done in your own way too. They don't have to be like super fancy. Like I hardly ever heat my oil for my massage, but I get oil on my skin every day. I really try. Need it. So okay, yeah. So see, we are already back down rabbit holes. So I'm trying to give the synopsis. Okay. Wake up early sometimes. Eliminate / brush teeth and tongue. Drink warm water, and then ritual time / self-programming. Dry brushing, oiling, shower, all those things. Yes. Morning routine. We did it. Synopsis. Okay. So, Eliana, would you like to say some things about our next topic?
Yes, absolutely. So we did just want to talk a little bit about kind of the eating practices that come with Ayurveda. And it's something that we can kind of weave into this topic without going too deep, because it really is very intuitive, and it invites us to simply eat intuitively and in reciprocity with what the earth is offering us through the season. So it encourages us to eat what is being grown out of the ground as we move through fall and spring and summer. And then in the winter, it's like what is left of the harvest, right? And that's when you kind of throw everything into a stew and you get that really warm, dense, heavy meal in that time of year when there's not much nutrients coming from earth, right? The earth is kind of stripped bare. There's not a whole lot of like energetic sustenance coming from the planet. It's kind of like you're working with what is left in the storage cabinet, back in the day when we didn't have grocery stores at our disposal, and you're putting them into these warm containers to heat up the body, to heat up the Agni from the inside out. And so that goes with the other, in summer, they recommend to eat things that are cooling and support the body to bring that balance from the external heat into a more balanced state inside. In the spring or the fall, one of the other, they'll ask you to eat more drying foods as the spring gets wet. The fall will be a little bit more moist foods as things get dry. And it's really just about like that the earth can bring us into balance when we are kind of receiving the nutrients that she makes available to us. And also when we're recognizing that these kinds of opposite ends of the spectrum are available for us to bring ourselves back into this place of neutrality when things get kind of polarized or extended towards really one side of the temperature barriers or one side of the elemental barriers, of like if things are really wet or really dry, like how can we use what we're already doing each and every day, which is eating food, to bring the body back into a place of homeostasis. So the food in Ayurveda really is what it is. It's meant to be medicine to the body. And they really encourage you to eat not for pleasure's sake, but really to eat and acknowledge how much energy is in the food that you're consuming and how much energy it took to bring this food to you, and really how much density there already is in just one cup of soup, like how many hands that it had to go through for you to have these vegetables, how many field tenders had to put their time and energy into the soil for it to be grown, for it to move through the channels of the world to end up on your plate in front of you, and to consume that, recognizing that there is all of that energy in your food. And if you can attune the energy to be in a balanced reciprocity with what's going on outside of the body and what's going on inside of the body, then you're acknowledging that the food is more than just kind of like a capitalistic influencer that kind of keeps us reaching for things out of pleasure or reaching for things out of commodification or searching for things outside of ourselves to find some type of acceptance, I guess, of where we are. And instead it's like the food is the medicine, and you don't need to be dependent on somebody else's way of eating. You simply just need to tune into what your body is wanting and receiving from what it is digesting. So that's kind of my interpretation of that. But I feel like, Holly, you might have a better explanation of how we use foods to bring things into balance, and just more expansion on that topic.
Yeah, I think that like Ayurveda really asks us to look at our food consumption really as what it was kind of more meant to be, which is the practice of communion. And like, you know, eating, when you eat this way, when you eat in with conscious awareness and intention to balance the energies that are present in the environment around you, you are really communing with the earth. You're really communing with the present day. You know, if you listen to our human design podcast, you're communing with the neutrinos that were shining and beaming down into your food as they were growing, that you then consume. And then you are like, yeah, and it's like, you know, it's like this communion, this kind of reciprocity. You know, it can be reciprocal also. You know, once you start kind of like receiving from the earth in this way, you start to kind of feel like, well, how can I give back? You know, that's another thing too, like kind of, if we are entering into communion, into reciprocity with the earth in receiving these foods, like we start to wonder, like after I started, you know, practicing Ayurveda for a long time, I was really starting to feel like, after I finally like feel like I healed and did a lot, and I finally was getting good nourishment. I think for a long time I wasn't getting good nourishment and I wasn't fully nourished. And so now that I feel like I really am, I'm like, okay, now I can give back. You know, now I can give back to my community. Now I can give back to the earth. And it's like this gift. This is like the initial gift that we receive from the earth that makes us want to give back. It's like Gaia is here, like supporting us and gifting us beautiful foods and nourishment. And so feeling into how we can give back, you know, when we're able to, when we're feeling fully nourished in this way. And I also want to touch on just kind of the different energies. Oh, my battery's dying. I'm going to plug in my computer really quick. Plug this right here. So. Yeah, so I did just want to touch on also the different qualities that they talk about in Ayurveda. And some of these qualities are like basically just having like the tools and the verbiage and the awareness to be able to kind of like quantify or like qualify like the energies around you, and to really feel into what they are and what is present in the external, and then what is present in the internal. And I'm probably not going to list them all, but there are things like dryness, like is like the quality of the air. Is it dry? Is it moist? Is it humid? The temperature, is it hot? Is it cold? The air, like the mobility of the air. Is it mobile? Is it stagnant? Is it sharp and penetrating? Is it heavy? Is it light? You know, I'm probably missing a couple there, but that's kind of like the verbiage that they use in Ayurveda to try to describe the qualities of the environment, and then also the qualities that the foods are offering. So there's certain qualities to each taste. They also talk about the taste. There's sweet, sour, salty,
Bitter.
pungent, bitter. Are there just 5? And astringent. There's astringent too. So astringent's kind of drying and light. Bitter is also kind of drying and light. You know, there's also, each of these tastes have different qualities that they offer us. And so being able to kind of identify the qualities of the air and of the environment that we're existing in, and then being able to identify those qualities in the foods, or the opposite qualities in the foods, and then being able to feed ourselves that. And this also goes for like, if you're spending like 8, 9, 10, 11 hours in an office, like an air-conditioned space, like that's also your environment. You know, it's not just what's happening outside, but it's also the environment that you're spending a lot of time in. So maybe you like to have like a cup of like warming herb tea like every day. If you're in this, really cold environment, or maybe you have a fan blowing on you, or like a vent right next to your desk, you're going to need to dress a little bit warmer. Probably even in the summertime, you might want to have like a little layer or something you can put on and just kind of protect your body from that really mobile, cold energy, So yeah, that's a little bit about environments. And then let's move into these same kind of practices, but for the internal balance. Do you want me to talk about that?
Yeah, we talk about that, Holly.
Yeah, I will. And then you'll share things too.
Yeah.
So basically the same thing goes for internal balance. So they actually, in Ayurveda, they use different verbiage to talk about like the mental energy. So of course we have the Vata, Pitta, and Kapha energies. And then you have, Rajas, Tamas, and Sattvic. And these are mental states. So Rajas, I feel like, is very similar to Pitta. It's very fiery, very fast moving, very kind of more tending towards anxiety and stress, and just like it's a faster energy. And then the Tamas is a slower energy, and it has more like depression, exhaustion, kind of like really like tired, sleepy, heavy kind of energies. And these are both energies that, they exist in us, and we cycle through them at different times. And they're really actually wonderful tools. Like Rajas, that's the energy that helps us wake up in the morning. We need that fast moving energy to help us wake up. And we need the Tamas energy to help us wind down. And basically these practices, I want to quote a little book here. Kate O'Donnell has a beautiful book about this. This is where I learned this. She has a recipe book, a beautiful Ayurvedic recipe book. And I think she has 2 recipe books. Go check her out. We'll put her in the show notes. But she talks about like eating for these specific energies to bring us back into sattvic state when we're feeling out of balance, when we're feeling like, oh, I don't need to be feeling this Rajas energy. I don't need to be feeling this anxiety right now. I don't need this like fiery, like really fast, like mental monkey mind kind of energy right now. And how to just kind of eat and take in medicine and do practices for balancing those more mental energies. And there's also ways to stimulate them. If you need more tamas energy at the end of your night, she talks about like no phones, no screens, like an hour before you go to sleep, and that helping to kind of stimulate that natural tamas energy in your life. And then so there's a lot of different practices in there, but I love this idea of like also like being able to kind of like self-treat and be able to empower yourself to treat your mental state too with foods and the medicine that we can receive from the earth, and like the herbs and things, so.
Yeah, I love like the way that, we're talking about this is like, we're given a lot of like the details here of Ayurveda. And so for some that are totally new to these words and these topics, or even just like the conversation of energy, right? Like these might seem like intangible or like something like totally separate from your life, and how would I incorporate this? But the idea here is like that this system is lifestyle medicine, and we're not trying to introduce anything that is going to separate you more from yourself or dislocate you more from your present experience. Like that's not the intention here by giving you these big concepts. The idea is to plant seeds for ways you can tune into what is already there to support you, what's already right in front of you. And Holly alluded to earlier, that we can reprogram ourselves in the morning, like we can clear out to like put things in. And there's really not a whole lot of support in the earth to fill ourselves back up. Like we are constantly draining our energetic resources into our jobs, into family systems that don't have the right quality support, to help mothers and fathers raise their children, into capitalism, into socialism, I keep saying socialism, into social systems. But like that, there's just this constant output that's requested of us at this time in this matrix world that we're living in. And the idea here is that like, you don't have to search very far to start filling yourself back up with more nutrients. And this is like food nutrients, lifestyle nutrients, like energetic communication, community nutrients. But when we do fill ourselves back up, we are this powerful force of energy. And there's a reason why our energy is being asked to be poured out all the time and not have this resiliency inside of us. And it's, as Holly was saying, it's when we're full of our own energy, it's a joy to support others. It's a joy to show up for our families. It's a joy to be in service to the earth. It feels possible to be in exchange with the ground underneath you and to be able to even ask the earth what she needs from us. Whereas if you're like not there yet, because it took me a while to get here where I could even be able to ask the earth what she needed from me, because I was constantly just having to receive and try to put things back in, because my whole conditioned life had been to give all of my essence out to everything that was a not self, everything that was not fueling me or supporting me. And Ayurveda is a system to fill yourself back up with the grounded, organic nature matter that is already attuned to your body. So whatever you take from this conversation, maybe the word Rajas just sticks in your head and you're like, I just need to like look more into that. I'm not totally sure what a mental energy is, but I need to look that word up. If dry brushing, you're like, what is a dry brush? It's like, well, your skin's the biggest organ in your body. Like, what are you doing to care for it? Have you ever given love and attention to this biggest organ in your body other than shaming it or saying it needs to look differently or trying to rewrite its programming to fit into like a white capitalistic society? So everything that we're sharing in this system of Ayurveda, this ancient medical system, it's medicine, it's lifestyle medicine. And it's just simply about tuning into what is kind of resonatory and exciting for you, especially you generators and MGs, what is kind of getting your juices flowing about how you could start to just incorporate these little tidbits here and there, start to learn more about this system. Or even if you're like, Ayurveda is not for me, I study Chinese medicine or whatever it is, recognizing that like there's an ancient force on this planet of old medicine, of human medicine that was created not by systems of oppression, but by people that were studying the human body and tuning into one person at a time and really seeing what people are in their individuality and giving them medicines for that, instead of trying to put the individual into like a broad bank of like medicines, right? Or like prescriptions where it's like, let's just try to fit them in over here instead of using what we already have at our disposal, which is the earth, to really give unique individualized medicine to each person, right? To each different type of dosha, to the person that has this dosha, but is totally in balance, that they feel like they're this other dosha. It's complex, and yet it's really just about kind of tuning into what's already here, what's already inviting you in, and recognizing that like, it's these little small steps and these little small rituals that are for your body, this cleansing and purifying mechanism and rebuilding resiliency to be in that capacity with the world, to be able to cleanse and purify the harms and the toxicities of this current reality that we're living in, and fill ourselves back up with the things that are not just going to support us, but also support our families and our jobs and our careers and our communities and our neighborhoods and everywhere that we pour energy into on a regular basis. Like, we're filling up, not just to pour out, but to be an overflowing vessel of good quality energy medicine.
Yes, absolutely. Oh my gosh, I love everything that you're saying. So beautiful and so potent, especially for this modern culture that we're living in. We were talking about like this, we're living in a time of lifestyle sickness and in a culture of lifestyle sickness that has been run and developed and designed out of oppression. And that is, even our healthcare system has been influenced by systems of oppression and money, and having money be the top priority. this system wasn't. I love that you pointed that out, because the system is so old. It's like even beyond that. And it feels so deeply resonant. And I just want to say too that, you know, it was a couple years of practicing Ayurveda until I feel like I was really underweight, was really not receiving a lot of nourishment. I think that I was eating foods and it was just like, it was like nothing was sticking. Like I wasn't fully receiving the foods that I was eating, and the nourishment that I was seeking, you know. And so after a couple of years of practicing and healing my body, you know, I feel that I was really able to actually learn how to receive and how to store some things for me, you know. And I think that it might take a while for people. It may take years for people, you know, experimenting and dabbling into Ayurveda, you know, to be able to really get to a point where they feel like, oh, thank God, like now I feel good, like I feel filled up, I feel fulfilled, and I feel happy. And now I can go and I can spread this light and this happiness and this feeling of fulfillment, and I can make choices in my life, and I can take actions from a place of feeling fulfilled, of feeling balanced. Because oftentimes if we're acting from a place of imbalance, that's going to affect our life. It's going to affect the choices that we make. It's going to send out ripples of imbalance. And so as people on the healing path, of course, we heal ourselves. That's kind of the goal, you know, of healing, and people on the healing path, healing ourselves, but then also knowing that that healing will ripple out and will touch other lives and will touch literally everything that you touch. It just ripples out into infinity. So this is a really, really beautiful and potent healing mechanism. And just the philosophy, I feel like, is so beautiful and so healing and magical. You know, and it's like, I love that it's a lot of it is just about the daily, like small things, you know, the things that you do every day are more important than the things that you do once in a while. It's like, you know, it's kind of the same thing as like microdosing. It's like these little things, this little morning routine, you know. It takes me about, well, I like to set aside about 2 hours for my morning routine. Some people don't have that time, you know, but I try to do everything I can. I try to eat breakfast, shower, do my makeup, get dressed, like all those things, work out, do yoga, do all my things in about 2 hours. I think at one point I had it down to like an hour, but you can shift and allow certain times for different things and stuff. But, you know, I think that it's really potent taking that time, and even the little things, you know, the little things that you practice every day really add up and really make a difference in your life and the lives of those around you.
Absolutely. Yeah. It's that one phrase is coming to mind, like how you do one thing is how you do everything. So it's like, if you just start doing one good thing for your body every day, that ripples out to being like one good thing for like the human body, the collective human body that you can offer up service to. So it's that microcosm, macrocosmic, like those little shifts, like little tiny steps in a different direction, like really do end you up somewhere completely different at the end of that path, right? Even if it feels small, it's like after a long period of time, you know, you're walking just slightly to the right, you eventually will end up at a very different end location as you would if you had just kept walking the same way you were walking, doing the same things you were doing every single day. So for anybody listening, like, I remember when I met Holly, I was like, oh, dang, her and her husband really got it on lock. They're doing like some real healthy things over here. They seem to have their behaviors and their patterns like all in flow. And so it's so amazing that you are a mom, and you're a working mom, a healing mom, and you do all these other things like dance classes and holding space for people, and that you're still putting in that time to wake up early and do a 2-hour practice before you show up for your family, you know. And I see that, how that pours into your home and into your relationship and into your daughter. You know, it's like you have this really healthy, clear aura because you take the time, and it's part of your lifestyle to infuse these particular practices and all of the other practices that you do into it in order to be, you know, a fountain. Holly always like calls upon Reiki fountains for us, like for not even just us, like for her whole neighborhood, for the whole city of Portland to come and be able to like drink and receive sustenance. And she can do that because she spends time integrating these fulfilling and cleansing practices into her daily schedule, and it allows her to be in the rhythm and allows her to be in the flow. And so, yeah, I mean, I wanted to just kind of drop that in there. That's like, I definitely don't wake up early and do 2-hour practices before my day. And I have a much easier schedule than Holly does. I don't have a child. My husband works out of the house. I make my own work each day. And so wherever you're at on the journey, like, it's perfectly okay. Like, we support you where you are. We encourage you to just show up for yourself a little more each day as your practice, as your intention, and never to put any more pressure on yourself than you need to, because we understand that life is crazy and that things happen, and integrating a 3,000 ancient medical system into your daily ritual is not going to come at the drop of the hat. Like, it's going to come from spending time with the teacher that is Ayurveda and learning and integrating the lessons, and then graduating eventually from this program so that you can, make it your own, right? So that you can make it your own practice and your own art form and your own way of living and being in the world.
Right, exactly. And I love that, like, I mean, it's a practice. It's a practice. And it's like, there's a lot, like, making it your own is really like the key, is making it your own and seeing how you can adapt it to your lifestyle and to your like habits and to your priorities too. Like, Eliana, you were saying like you have a Manny-gen husband and you need your time in the morning. Like Eric, my Eric, we both have husbands named Eric, so funny. My Eric is a manifester, and he is also like in human design, lacking that sacral center. So for him, it's really important also to have some extra time to rest too, and to rest alone. And so honoring that too, and working that into your flow, and making these things your own, and also acknowledging that sometimes like it's just not going to happen. Sometimes you got to sleep in, sometimes things happen. And so just really like being gentle and compassionate with yourself, and not putting any pressure on yourself for these, but just like receiving these wisdom codes into your field. And then when it feels right, if you want to bring them out and practice them, you can. And then if they go away for a while, that's okay too. It's all cyclical, and the medicine can be kind of like penetrating and seeping into you like as you go through life.
That's such a beautiful visual when you said that.
Okay.
Soaking in the aura of this conversation.
Yes, exactly. Cool. Yeah. And I love it. Speaking on human design again, Eliana and I are both 2/4 profiles. So a little thing about that, we like it's like the easy breezy genius, right? Is like what they call the 2/4 code. So I love that we can kind of come together and share this really broad topic, and a lot of the other topics and the other healing modalities and things that we'll be discussing on this podcast. But like being able to share like little snippets of things that we've really studied deeply, and just be able to like offer them out is just like, I feel in such alignment with who we are and with our profiles and with human design, which we absolutely love. So
yeah. Side note, there'll be more podcasts about human design in the future.
Exactly.
Probably woven into so many of our conversations, as we just can't seem to have one without talking about that aspect of things.
Yeah. It's kind of a big deal in our lives. We're very excited and very passionate to share those things with you, and it's what we're practicing too. Yeah, a lot of our message is things that we're practicing and things that we have already really gained a lot from. So human design is on our list. Cool. Well, are we ready to wrap this episode up, Eliana?
Yeah, did we want to offer a little reading to kind of put a little bow on it all?
Yes, let's do that. You drew some things for us?
Yeah, I kind of drew before the conversation, and I was like, what is this about? And now that I'm here, I can see a little more about how to weave them in. So I'm working with the Wild Unknown Alchemy deck and the Archetype deck from the Wild Unknown. And the cards that I pulled were Kairos and Luna, the moon. So if you're watching on YouTube, I'm holding up the cards, but if you're just listening. And the message that I was first receiving was like, oh yeah, we're recording this in the middle of a very potent eclipse cycle. In a couple of days, we're going to have the full moon eclipse in Taurus, I believe.
Mhm.
And we just kind of came through an eclipse that was in Scorpio. So it's this very intense energy. And it felt like these cards kind of came up, one, to encourage whoever is listening and whenever you are listening to this, to know that this podcast was called up, invited in. Holly got excited about it, and with pure MG style, we were like, well, we're going to use that energy and talk about this topic. But we, at least I, after kind of exchanging back and forth, I think that why this wanted to drop in now was because we're rapidly moving into the future. Technology is rapidly growing. Things are changing. The energy codes are flowing in. The auras are expanding. Like, you know, we moved from a 7 chakra system into this 9-centered being system. And I do kind of feel like that embodiment is starting to come online. Like the whole soul embodiment is starting to come online. That's why so many people are waking up spiritually all over the world, while so many people, you know, are becoming very psychic, and also like this huge increase in like psychosis and craziness because people are seeing beyond the veil, and they're starting to see things that weren't here before, that we at least couldn't see before. So I think it was important to kind of ground us back into some of these like ancient earth teachings, you know, like as we're moving forward, that we're not moving forward into the next paradigm and leaving these behind, that these teachings not only want to come with us, but they need to come with us. And that as humans become more diseased by the current, you know, energetic climate and the things that are changing, and the way that some things are getting really ramped up as the energy, like the spiritual and supportive energies are getting ramped up, that there's ways to kind of ground back down to the earth. And it's by kind of connecting with the ancient energies on this planet, the ancient systems of energy on this planet from before the patriarchy, you know, kind of like the older ways in which people were tuning to the earth and tuning to their food and building relationships with the things that they were consuming. So it feels like this eclipse is like, yes, like this eclipse energy is in here. It's in this podcast right now. We're recording it in the middle of these potent energies. And because of these potent energies, we had to get real and grounded and kind of tap into some of the older forms of study that Holly and I, you know, started long before human design, long before our Reiki practices. Like Ayurveda, I think for both of us came in pretty early because we both kind of started with yoga. We kind of started on this out of the matrix box by becoming yoga teachers and starting to teach bodily movement that incorporated breath and spirituality and things like that. So Ayurveda is like also kind of coming back, I think, for us to be like, yes. And as you grow in your podcast and grow your communities and keep doing this work, it's important to find your balance. And like, how do you do that? Well, you go back to the old practices. You go back to the things that have been helping you for the last decade, or for other people for your entire lives, you know, like you go back to the origin story and you figure out what was there to support you before all these energies came in, right? Before these heightened activations and technological expansions, like what was here before all of that? And can we use that as a foundation to grow from, and not artificial foundations to grow from, which there is a lot of opportunities to be growing from foundations that are not going to last as we move forward. But this system has lasted for 3,000 years. And, you know, the Kairos is like about the cycles. It's about the time cycles. It's literally mythic time and synchronicity. So it's like, yes, this is old. And also it's a living, Ayurveda is a living energy. It's a living teacher, and it's still here, and it's still very much grounded into this earth experience. And it wants to be with us as we cycle forward in time and turn the wheel into the next chapter of our human experience. So yeah, that's the message that I received from that.
Awesome. Yeah, that was such a beautiful reading. I feel like that really tied everything in together that we were talking about, and just kind of like really pointed out that, yeah, this is the medicine for this time right now, for this time in human history, you know, as we go forward with all this crazy technology that we have at our fingertips, and that is coming and becoming more and more advanced and kind of scary almost, like you know, it's like, yeah, remembering to come back to these ancient practices and remembering like who we are as human beings, and that we are the earth keepers. We are gardeners. We aren't like robots, you know, we aren't, You know, we're people, we're human beings, and we're totally like full spectrum. So
Absolutely.
yeah, I love that reading, and I love the lunar card. You know, this is the potency, this is like kind of speaking to the neutrinos and stuff that are affecting the message that we're sending right now at this moment in time. So I love that.
Yeah.
Beautiful. Awesome. Cool. Well, I think that we are coming to the end of our time here. So I wanted to thank all of our listeners so much for tuning in today on this episode of We Heal as we kind of dip a toe into the beautiful practice of Ayurveda. We so appreciate you listening and being here, and we would love to know what you think. If you have any messages or any comments or anything that you would like to share with us, please, we welcome you into our DMs, into our reviews or whatever. You can find me on Instagram. I'm at the Peace Witch, V_peace_witch, and Eliana Miranda at wellness_weaver. Thank you again so much, and we look forward to seeing you next time here on We Heal.